We have Bolade Adola, Macros and Energies Analyst at Chapel Hill Denham Security. Thank you so much, Bolade, for joining us.
Much for having me.
So NMDPRA has refuted the claims that has been making the rounds about halting gas supply to GenCos. From your perspective, how critical is the regulator's role in maintaining trust and ensuring stability in Nigeria's gas supply chain?
In my opinion, I believe that the authority has a very important role in ensuring stability. And this is because the effectiveness of the authority in carrying out its operation directly into growth and also public confidence.
Hello, Bolade. Hello, Bolade, can you hear me?
I think. Yes, can you hear me clearly?
Okay, yes, we can hear you now.
Yes,
you can continue. Yeah. Just go ahead, please.
Okay, like I said, I think the network went off when I was talking. I said that the authority plays a very crucial role in the economy, and so the effectiveness of the authority is very positive, and it directly impacts economic stability, and which in turn also is positive for public confidence.
But then we are not too sure about the issue around gas supply to GenCos. Of course, the rumor flew around yesterday, and a lot of people bounced on it because, of course, we've been having issue around grid collapse in the country. I want to believe the 12th time in the year 2024 itself, and everyone is putting the bulk at the table of the NMDPRA. Fine, it has come out to refute that particular claim, but then how are we so sure that the GenCos, the generating companies, have enough capacity to power our, of course, facilities?
They have enough capacity to power what? I didn't get the last.
Yes, enough capacity to supply, empowering our facilities.
Of course, I believe that based on the capacity that that we have currently, they are able to supply. So there are different challenges that could impact performance in the power sector chain. There is the infrastructure. Even if there is capacity from the generating companies, there may be challenges in the infrastructure that could lead to load costs. So they are the amount they are even generating as generating companies not able to get to the transmission company, and if there is a short along the infrastructure like that, not enough is able to get to the consumers eventually. So there are different challenges that are plaguing the oil, the power sector generally. So I believe that is one of the. There are a lot of things. It could be from the authority, but I believe that the most important part the authority is going to place to ensure that there's smooth operations in the sector in which it's regulates. I highlight that the PIA stipulates some guidelines, specific guidelines and licenses that operators in the midstream and downstream should have as for people that are playing a role in crude oil refinery, bulk storage, wholesale petroleum, among many other operations. And this is just to ensure that players in that role, in that sector, in that segment, are doing the correct things, because the PIA also speaks to the fact that there are duties for license holders, and if players are operating in this sector and they don't have the correct licenses or they don't have the required licenses, the authority has the power to be able to seize or confiscate to seize their assets. So I think it is not the NMDPRA that would halt supply of gas, but they will just be carrying out their own duties to ensure that the sector and operations in the sector is smooth. So that is my opinion on the matter.
Okay, so also talk to us about the reported 2 trillion naira debt owed to gas producers by Gencos, and of course the federal government's impact in the gas industry, particularly in maintaining supply to the power sector.
It's for any company that is going to be facing liquidity crunch, because not having their revenue that is due to them will definitely result to liquidity crunch. And up top of my mind, the challenges, the impact is challenges with meeting obligations. And when there are challenges in meeting obligations, they will not be able to, because they also have customers that they have to pay and debts that they have to be funded. If there are challenges in meeting obligation, this would affect operations. So this brings me to the second point, which is operational disruptions. And when we have operational disruption, this is negative for the power sector, because maybe they have to downsize on their workforce capacity, or downsize on how much they're able to produce as a result of operational disruptions. Then there will not be enough supply to the generating companies, and on and on, it affects consumers at the end of the day. Another thing is insolvency and bankruptcy, and we know that if these gas supplying companies shut down as a result of insolvency and bankruptcy, it would mean that there is serious negative impact for the power in general.
It quite baffles me, though, that we still read in the reports some time ago that even government institutions owed Gencos for powers generated and supplied to them. We're looking at government institutions in this case. Now, the Gencos themselves cannot also pay the gas producers. I mean, it's quite critical that we have a sector that powers the economy, which provides electricity. But why would even a government institution not meet its financial obligation when a service is being rendered?
I cannot speak for the government institutions on why, but I think it's a situation that needs to be addressed, and so that to ensure liquidity, free flow of liquidity, improved liquidity in the power sector, which we believe is one of the challenges in the power sector currently.
Okay, so then what can the private sector do? Can there be some sort of strengthened partnership, some sort of investment? Maybe private players come into play to improve the value chain in terms of investments and operations and the other areas that you talked about?
Of course, there's a role the private sector can play. One low-hanging fruit is providing capital, and we know that for gas assets or infrastructure, it's characterized as capital intensive, and it's usually long-term projects. So long-term financing is a good one for the sector and power sector at large. Another thing one will look at is in terms of infrastructure development. Private sector can come in that area, and be a form of support in that area. And we've seen successful initiatives in terms of public-private partnership. NLNG is one of such, and we've also seen private sector take part of the sector and do really good things in it. That's the gas distribution in the downstream sector. We've seen companies like Axela and Falcon play a vital role in that aspect. And I believe that if we see more public-private partnerships and even private sectors coming into that space, it would be a very positive one for the sector at large.
Okay, to wrap up this conversation, Balade, has Nigeria gotten to that point where it can begin to drive conversations around alternative energy? There is solar, there is coal, there is wind, there is hydro, away from gas, away from oil. Have we gotten to that place where we can begin to harness those other alternative potential?
I don't think we should say have we gotten to it. I think it's something we should look forward to as a means, reduce pressure on fossil fuels, right? It's something we should look forward to. We've seen other countries do that. That's what we call the energy mix diversification. So currently, electricity, over 70% of electricity generated is from gas-fired power plants. So there's a need to diversify from just gas, because if something happens to supply, it means that 50% of electricity generated, over 50% is gone, and then the whole country is in a blackout. So I think what one can consider is energy mix diversification, and we've seen improvement in research and technology, especially in the solar area. So I think it's something we should consider as a country, so as to ensure much more stable power supply.
Well, it's been 4 days now that I've had power, that I've not had power in my house. So you can imagine how painful that could be for an individual, before we now talk about businesses who need this constant power supply to make efficient their operation. So away from that, Abolade, now let's look at Nigeria's oil output. It has actually hit 1.69 million barrels per day, exceeding October levels. Now, Nigeria's oil production, including condensate, increased by 9.9% in November 2024. Well, for you, this might be a good news and probably music to your ears. But then I'd like you to talk to us about the factors that have driven this recovery and whether it is sustainable in the long term.
In my opinion, I think the major factor that has driven improved oil production is improvement in security along the pipelines, and that is the major thing, because even if we're improving production in terms of the companies and people, operators in that space, if security along the pipeline is a major challenge, we're not going to be able to export most of our products. But the major thing for me is that there's been improved security, and I think is a very sustainable, since that we've been seeing this improvement since 2023. Towards the end of 2023, we've seen that the improvement in security has translated to improved oil production, and this year we hit another milestone of 1.49 barrels. That's in terms of just crude oil production, which is the highest we've seen since December 2020. So it's a good one, and I think it's going to be sustainable. And this is also in addition to the fact that we've seen indigenous companies take up assets that IOCs are divesting from, and we believe that these indigenous companies will continue to sweat this asset to ensure that they as a company are profitable, which will feed into improved production going forward in 2025.